Dan Perry here with another C++ tutorial for Dan on Tech. In this video we'll continue our look at the for loop. In the last video we saw how we could increase or decrease the value of the for loop, or decrement or increment, count up and down. Well, we don't have to have a fixed starting or ending value when we go into the loop. We even can have a variable amount for our increment or decrement. So to illustrate that, I'm going to create another integer, and I'm going to call it j, and let me set j equal to 10 in this case, and I'm going to change my I to start at 1. I'm going to do I less than, and this time instead of 5 I'm going to do I less than j, and let me just change this and increment or add 2 each time. So in this case I'm going to start at I equal 1. I'm going to continue as long as I is less than j, but I'm going to add 2 to I each time through the loop. So we should end up with 1, 3, 5, 7, 9 as our output. And we'll run it. And that's what we get. 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. What we're doing is we're starting I or j at 10. We're starting I at 1, comparing I to j. Well, j is 10. Since j is 10, then 1 is less than 10, so that's true, and it goes through. Each time it goes through, it's adding 2. So we've used a variable to help determine our stop condition. So we can use those variables that way. Now, in fact, I don't even have to have a fixed starting value for I. Let me create another variable k, and let me make k equal 3, and I can say, well, I equals k at the start. So whatever the value of k is when I reach the for loop, in this case 3, that will be the starting value for I. So let's run it, and this time you can see it starts at 3 because k was 3. I equal k in that line started it at a value of 3. So we've used a variable there. Well, let me modify this, make it a little more, let's say, usable maybe. I could determine the values of j and k based on user input or the results of a previous calculation. I don't have to, in this case, fix them. I've made them a fixed value at the start so far, but I could go in here and I could ask the user, enter the start value. So say enter the start value, and then a cn, and this would be k, I'm sorry, k is the start value. And I could even ask for the ending value. Let me cut and paste to save, enter the ending value, and that would be j. And if I run it now, it's going to ask the user. So it says, hey, what's your starting value? I'll put in a 4. What's your ending value? I'll put in a 9. And so we've got a 4 and a 9. So it did 4, 6, 8, and then exited the loop. Well, what's it doing? It's coming through here. When it gets to this cn line, we're entering the value for k, which is what we said we used to start I. So when we do end up down at the for loop, I will be given a value we typed in. In this case, it was a value of 4. Then it asks us for the ending value, and we see in j. So j is put in this equation. So I less than j is I less than 9, which is what we entered. So it will go into the loop. It will print out I at 4, come back up, add 2 to I will be 6, add 2. So it's working the same way, except we have just entered what we want for our starting and ending values in this case. So there's another way we can use loops where we don't necessarily know those starting and ending values. In this case, I used them where I had typed in those values. I didn't have to do that. They could have been, as I said, a result of a calculation. Well, let me go one step further. Let me create another variable L. And I could ask for an increment. Enter the increment. And now have them CNL. And this time I would say I plus equal to L. And so whatever I put in for the value of L, that would be the amount it changes each time. And so again, start value. Let's start at 4. Ending value 15. Increment value, let's do 6. Well, it started out at 4. Started out at 4 because we ended at 4. I became 4. It will end when I is no longer less than 15, but we added whatever the L value was 6 to it each time. So the first time through it was 4. We incremented it by 6 when it got through after the first loop, so that became 10. Then we incremented it by 6 again. Well, that became 16, and we reached our exit condition and left the loop. So we can control, we don't have to know when we're writing the program what those values are. We could calculate them, or we could enter them depending on what the problem is we're trying to solve. Well, thank you for watching this Dan on Tech video. Please subscribe to this playlist so you don't miss future videos. Please check out and subscribe to our other Dan on Tech channel playlists.